In this section, we're going to be solving quadratic equations by using square root. Before we start solving the quadratic equations, we're going to look at some characteristics of taking square roots. So let's say we have 3 times 3. We know that 3 times 3 equals 3 squared, which equals 9. So the square root of 9 equals 3, which is a positive square root of 9. Now, let's look at negative 3 times negative 3, which is equal to negative 3 squared. And negative 3 squared equals 9 also. So the square root of 9 with a negative on the outside equals negative 3. So basically, negative 3 times negative 3 and 3 times 3 both equal 9. So the square root of 9 equals plus or minus 3. And that would be expressed by writing a plus sign and then a minus sign. So now we're going to look at an example of using square roots in order to solve quadratic equations. Here, our quadratic equation is going to be in the form of x squared equals a. And then our example is going to be x squared equals 16. So you can see that it's in the form of x squared equals a. And in order to solve for x, again, you want to try and isolate the x variable. But you can see that it's an x squared. So in order to get rid of a squared, you have to take the square root of both sides. So let's take the square root of the left and the right. If we take the square root of an x squared, we're left with x equals plus or minus the square root of 16. And then we can go ahead and simplify the right side to x equals plus or minus negative 4. And the reason that it's plus or minus is because if I squared 4, I would end up with 16. And if I squared negative 4, I would still end up with 16. Now we're going to look at another example of this. We have the equation x squared equals negative 4. So again, we want to isolate the x variable. In order to do this, we want to take the square root of both sides. So the square root of x squared and the square root of negative 4. So we get x equals plus or minus the square root of negative 4. But you cannot take the square root of a negative number. There is no real number whose square is negative, so there is no real solution to this problem. Now we're going to look at another example. We have 4x squared minus 25 equals 0. So again, we want to try and isolate the x variable. So let's start off by adding 25 to both sides. We add 25 to the left side in order to get rid of it on the left side. And if we do it to the left, we got to do it to the right. So that gives us 4x squared equals positive 25. Now, we want to move the 4 over. So in order to do that, we will have to divide both sides by 4. 4 is multiplying x squared. So you have to divide in order to get rid of it. So the left side, 4x squared divided by 4, leaves us with x squared equals 25 over 4. Now we have the x squared equals 25 over 4, and this is the x squared equals a form. So in order to solve this, we got to take the square root of both sides. When we take the square root of the left side, we're left with x. And in order to take the square root of just the right side, you can take the square root of the top number of the fraction and the bottom number of the fraction separately. So basically, we would have the square root of 25 over the square root of 4. And when we go ahead and simplify that, we know that 5 times 5 equals 25, and 2 times 2 equals 4, so we get x equals 5 over 2, and that would be plus or minus 5 over 2. So the solutions are 5 over 2 and negative 5 over 2.